Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm Lucas.
And we are two aspiring filmmakers making unnecessary commentary on famous movies.
Each week, we will randomly select a film to analyze, discuss, and review.
We will select the film at the end of each podcast, so you will have ample time to watch the movie before the next episode.
We are slightly qualified film students. Hello, everybody.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Slightly Qualified Film Students.
Yes.
This week, in our 20th episode, or 21st.
20th film.
Is it 20th or 21st?
Wait.
20th film.
20th film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Martin Scorsese's Silence, our second Scorsese movie, although this is kind of, I would classify it as, one of like the modern Scorsese films, where he kind of almost had like a style switch up in a way.
Yeah.
Stopped making like the Italian gangster movies. Now he's into stuff like Hugo and whatever. But yeah, second Scorsese movie. Super excited. Absolutely amazing director and one of the all-time greats, obviously.
This was Ben's first viewing of this film.
Yeah, it was. Super exciting.
Yeah.
It's a really great movie. Honestly, I don't know why I'd never seen it. It's a pretty, like, it didn't really do well at the box office at all. I think it only made back like around half of its budget.
Yeah.
And it didn't really win any awards either.
No, it kind of got glossed over.
Yeah.
It really got glossed over that award season. But to be fair, 2016 was a big year for the movies.
It was, but I feel like, honestly, it might have to do with just how, like, strong the religious themes are in this film. Like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like
but Hacksaw Ridge got lots of noms, and it's a very religious film too. It's Mel Gibson, so it's very And I feel like this film, even though it's heavily religious, it's not really bias about it. It's kind of just showing. It's like watching Schindler's List or something, where it's kind of just showing these two opposing views and the horrendous stuff that is taking place. It doesn't feel like a PSA or like a Christian commercial or whatever. It doesn't feel like a missionary film. It just kind of feels like an unbiased look at it, which is not something you see very often, especially when you're dealing with a director's like faith, because Martin Scorsese is Christian. But I mean,
and it's interesting too, because I mean, Scorsese's done this is like his third kind of religion focused film. I have seen The Last Temptation of Christ. I've never seen Kundun, I think it's called.
Mean Streets is a little bit too.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, The Last Temptation of Christ is like way more than this. Like, it is
totally
just a literal, basically retelling of some Bible stuff. But I mean, it's interesting. He tells a lot of stories about religion. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of. I mean, this story though, it goes a lot deeper than religion. Like, it's not. It's hard to take this film like surface level. I think there's some very deep themes. So it was a really great watch, and I'd highly recommend everybody check it out before we spoil it.
Yeah. It's on
because I mean,
Prime.
it's very
I watched
intense.
it on Prime Video. Yeah, it is. It's a very intense film. I really didn't remember a lot about this film because I watched this movie 3 years ago on my iPad Mini in an airplane. So
oh my god,
I don't think
not
that
the
did
way to watch
justice.
This.
No,
No.
And I it's a long movie, and I was on the plane, and I probably was zoning out, and it is on my little iPad. So this time watching it again in the pitch black on my TV with the volume blasted, it was really it was like a fun watch. I really enjoyed rewatching this movie, and kind of just like really analyzing
seeing this in
it.
the theaters
That
would have been a great
really cool
experience. Unfortunately, definitely didn't get to do that. Came out in 2016.
Yeah.
I have the plot summary here now, just in case you need it. So, Rodriguez and Garupe, two Catholic missionaries, travel to Japan in search of their missing mentor, Ferreira, who is believed to have been promoting Catholicism by going against the law. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that what that kind of leaves out is that they go because they think he apostatized.
Yeah.
Or apostatized, or I don't know how you say it. But they've basically been told that their old mentor is, went against his faith, denounced God, that kind of thing.
And they don't believe it.
So they don't believe it. So they travel to Japan to find him and also spread some good old Catholic vibes along the way.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, I mean, this film is set in the 17th century, 1600s.
Yeah.
And Japan at that point was like a closed country. I mean, you weren't, like, not only were you not allowed to be Christian, but I mean, no outside influences were even allowed to show up. Like, no one could trade with them. So
I think
they're kind of in hiding the whole film.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the main point of the film, because I think a lot of people can look at this film as like Japanese people are the enemy in this film, which
definitely
is not the case. It's more that it's like the different belief systems, and that these people basically are trying to protect their country from like outer, like other people from being westernized and all that stuff. Obviously in very horrendous and very disturbing ways. But I mean, it's not quite the same as like looking at the Nazi regime or something like that. It's very like, I don't know. It's based on a true story. Obviously, these characters are fictionalized, but this was happening in the 17th century. And it's also based on a book.
If you look at like all the stuff that's happening back then in other places of the world, I mean, you got slavery and stuff. It's not like this is barbaric by any means.
Yeah, I was looking at this
compared
also,
to what's happening.
Because Portugal had Japanese slaves during the 17th century, so and the Japanese basically regime was trying to outlaw slavery of Japanese people. So that's another thing that they don't go into the film, but that's another reason why all this is happening, and the hatred towards these missionaries.
You're definitely not supposed to feel like, I know when I was watching this, I didn't feel like the Japanese people were like evil or like necessarily. They're obviously meant to be the bad guys, but this is almost more just about Andrew Garfield's character, like struggling with himself and his like
his faith
and that kind of stuff. You're not really. I don't think that you're supposed to kind of see any of the like the Inquisitor character as evil. Because I mean, even closer to the end when they're having conversations, you're like seeing it from his perspective, and it's kind of valid. So.
It is.
I think
it's just I don't know if the means justify or the ends justify the means.
For sure.
Killing innocent people, but it's
they do go to a lot of means.
Yeah. There are some pretty brutal killings in this film, but I think that the biggest thing that I really took away from this film is just, I really liked their outlook on faith. I really liked the overall themes coming from this film. This idea of like doubt and unknowing, and basically just like really not knowing who you are as this film goes along. And I think his character development, Andrew Garfield's character, is like really good in this movie. It's some of the best character development. He goes through so much in this film, like an insane amount. And his like thought process and his ideologies change constantly throughout the film. And I think it's a really riveting character.
It is. And I think that it's also like one of the major themes is like, what's more worth it for this character? Is his faith worth more than all these innocent people's lives?
Yeah.
Like, would he rather have, stay devout, stay Catholic, but you know, all these people are going to die and be tortured because of it.
Right. Yeah.
And I think we can talk more about that kind of stuff in the story and the screenplay.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you can really look super deeply at his character. Because he has such... I mean, his character is written so well. And it's so interesting.
Yeah.
I would definitely love to rewatch this film. And not even because I think... Like, there's nothing like a plot twist or anything, or anything confusing. This film wraps up really nicely. Like, it's not like you need to watch it a couple times, but it's one of the most, like, heart-wrenching films we've seen so far.
Yeah,
partly
I'd say it's
acting.
one of the most intense films we've done so far. Just on intensity level. Like, it's a very suspenseful film.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I want to do some standout scenes.
Yes, and I'm going to go first, because I want to get this out of the way. I didn't really want to pick this scene, because I thought it's very obvious. But I mean, I feel like I kind of have to. It's the scene where Rodriguez apostatizes. He steps on the image of God, and while his faith doesn't necessarily die, like they're saying, it's just a formality.
Yeah.
But I mean, this scene is just so powerful.
Yeah, it's
the entire film up
scene.
until that point has been building to that moment. And I mean, there's just so many conflicting emotions.
Oh yeah.
Because on the one hand, you feel like it's the right thing to do, because he's, saving all these people from being tortured. But at the other hand, you have like all these people, like Mokichi, like the original priests in the village that they first go to, who like just committed to their faith to the very end.
Totally.
That allowed him to get to that point, just for him to kind of give up. And I mean, this is also the only time in the whole film we kind of get to hear God, I guess. Even though this isn't...
Yeah.
This is, just in his mind.
Yep.
It's the first time we get to hear him speak, and tell him it's okay. Like, I was put on this earth to feel your pain, like I feel your pain. Yeah, I mean, I rewatched this scene like 4 times. I just kept rewinding it, because I mean, it's just so good. It's beautiful.
It's really good.
It's powerful. I love that all the sound just washes away, and it's just silent.
So yeah,
so
I love that scene. Also, Liam Neeson and his conversation before that scene, where they're kind of arguing about. It's like, it's just a really well-rounded scene with all those people hanging in those pits behind him. You're just hearing their screams, and then it all just cuts out, and it cuts to his foot on the picture. It's just that is a truly work of art of a scene. I think it's a really masterful, like how it just all built up. I chose I don't know if this is more like 2 scenes put together, but I chose the first time we see the Inquisitor, when they tell the village people to stomp on the picture of Jesus and the Virgin Mary, and then they all do it, but then they tell them to now spit on the cross. They don't do it, and then it's the crucifixion scene of the 3 Japanese townspeople that we've seen for the first 50 minutes of the film. And I think that entire sequence, from the spitting on the cross to the crucifixion, is one of the most beautifully shot scenes in this film. I mean, that crucifixion scene in the ocean, in that cave with them, with that one guy singing his song with everyone watching, and then them burning the bodies at night. It's a really gorgeous scene with so much emotion and powerful performances, truly heartbreaking. And yeah, that scene just, it blows me away every time I watch it. It's just a really powerful scene. I cried during it. That was one of the, I think, 2 times had to cry during this film. I mean, I think that scene also just brings like kind of act 1 of the film.
it ties that up so nicely.
Yeah.
It kind of forces the characters to move on, because, they can't just be staying in the village for the whole film. And it also just is really sad, really powerful, really beautiful. Great scene. Great scenes, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, okay, we have one audience question. We kind of covered this already, but the audience question is, how do you think this film and how it tackles religion and faith was done? Did you like it? Did you think it was overused? What is your opinion on it?
I mean, I don't really think it can be overused, because, it's kind of the central theme of the whole film.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that he's constantly praying, and we get to hear his thoughts and his kind of one-sided conversations with God. It's like kind of narration, but not really, because he thinks he's talking to God. So, but yeah, I think that they used religion very well in this film. Like we were saying earlier, it doesn't feel like they're pushing an agenda or anything. Like, it doesn't feel like they're trying to say that Catholicism is the way, and that it's like the greatest religion and everybody should convert, because they're not. I think that it's handled really well, because I feel like, it's not really pushing anything onto you, and you just kind of get to see it for how it is, and kind of the truth of it, that these people have faith, but God isn't actually responding to them. They're still suffering.
So I agree.
I think that this isn't about like God pulling up and saving everybody. It's like the opposite. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who isn't religious, I tend to not like films that are overly like focused on religion, but I think some films do it really well, especially when they look at it in a very unbiased way and very just like honest just look at it. And I think this film does that really well. I think Scorsese does a good job at just letting the story and everything speak for itself. Yeah, I really like just the themes. I like that the idea of like constantly questioning Andrew Garfield's faith, the idea of denouncing your ideologies, and yeah, just how religion is tearing people apart, and it's killing people. And I think I didn't mind it at all. I think it's really cool. Andrew Garfield, who is agnostic, who gave this performance and just feels like he's truly as religious as it gets. And that's why you have to build it up. You have to really show how religious this guy is, because when he finally apostatizes at the end, that's what makes that scene so emotionally impactful. Even though, maybe some viewers aren't religious or, have different religious beliefs, there's still something that you just have this complete and utter awe of this character, and this like empathy for him when he has to give up his faith. And I think it's done really well in this film. And that's what I have to say.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll hop into our review of the movie Silence.
Sweet. Okay, we're back
and hopping into
Originality.
The review. Yeah, story
out of 10. I personally think that this is one of Martin Scorsese's most original films, just on like an originality standpoint. I think it's up there with Taxi Driver and Shutter Island. I think that because mostly Scorsese, he does a lot of based on true people, Wolf of Wall Street, Irishman, Raging Bull, Goodfellas.
And he also does a lot of gangster movies that don't necessarily have like the deepest story or anything. Mm-hmm. They're just kind of funny and really, I mean, they're not like the deepest
just entertaining
stories. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think this is one of his deepest films. It's very original, and it's just like it's out of his comfort zone. He's shooting something in Japan with, like, just it doesn't feel like a Martin Scorsese film.
It really doesn't.
It feels like he totally went for it here, and he's been saying he wanted to make this film since he made The Last Temptation of Christ, which was, a while back
in the 80s,
and he was able to get, eventually the budget. And this film also, it doesn't have a huge budget. Like, it has a big budget, but
it has a big budget, but it's not that
compared
big.
Like, this film looks and feels like a huge budget film, and it's only like $40 million, which is still a lot of money. But for a film of this, like, the amount of like production design, all of it, it really utilized its money in a smart way. But story and originality, I think this is a really interesting story. It's really deep, moving, and I think this is one of Scorsese's most original films.
Yeah, it is very original. I mean, it is based off of a book written by a Japanese author, and there is another film adaptation of the same book from the 70s. I've never seen it. It's pretty, like, not well known. But, I don't think that takes anything away from originality, because I'm not really sure how loosely based off the book it is, but I think it's pretty close. But I don't know. I think that the overall themes and, like, messages of this film, like, they're deeply religious, but they're very powerful, even if you don't look at it from that standpoint, just about this character, and him questioning his morals and his values. I also really like that the title Silence, like, refers to God's silence towards the character's prayer. I don't know. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, the feelings that this story is able to create, it's just amazing. Because, like, I honestly couldn't really tell you what makes me feel like you feel very connected to this character. And you really are just with him through his struggles, even though there's really nothing I can personally relate to him with. The feelings that this film is able to evoke is just really amazing, because it's got very dark subject matter. There's very intense scenes, and this character just undergoes such a vast change from the beginning of this film. He's a very clean-cut priest, and by the end he looks like a war veteran, pretty much. Like, you can like, in his performance after his apostatization, is just so like, almost scarred. He looks like he has like PTSD almost. Totally. I just think that this story has that great kind of roller coaster of emotions going on, and definitely one of Scorsese's most deep films.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not your usual film guy. I will admit that for the most part I prefer Scorsese's newer films, with, like, the exception of Casino. Like, I don't know. His newer films, like, I just enjoy them much more. Wolf of Wall Street, Shutter Island, even The Irishman. I don't know. I really like this movie.
You're not a Casino
originality. Guy? Yeah, no, I love Casino, bro. Casino is, like, one of my favorite Scorsese films, which is weird because a lot of people don't really like Casino.
I love Casino.
Yeah. I gave it a 9 out of 10 for story and originality.
Same here. 9 out of 10. Really, really solid. Mwah. Chef's kiss.
Okay, let's go into beginning out of 5.
I like the beginning to this film. I think that the opening location, those hot springs, is just amazing, especially with the fog. Yeah. There's a ton of fog in this film.
Oh, yeah.
But
so much fog.
I don't know. Right off the bat, I was like, okay, cinematography is going to be really high. And, like, usually I'm not a fan of narration, but I kind of like it here. Like, it's a letter, obviously, that the priest is reading out from Ferreira. And I don't know. I think that it overall is just a really solid base for the film. It's a very solid setup. You immediately know why they want to go to Japan. You see that they are, they really want to do this. And I think overall it's a really great introduction. Is it perfect? Not necessarily. At the end of the day, it is narration, and I don't know. I can't give it like full marks if the film starts with basically 4 minutes of narration.
I mean, the title card of this film gave me goosebumps.
True.
Like, it gave me it's the film, like, all that black screen, and I was in pitch black, right? And that black screen and this like birds and cricket sound effects, like building, and then it just cuts out and it says silence. I was like, it gave me chills. And yeah, I think the opening 4 minutes is like breathtaking, really intense, really throws you into the film right away. And I actually think that the setup done. Yeah. I think that the setup done, though, with Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver in the church, it's actually really quick. Like, they get to the point really quickly, and they're in Japan within
relative
the first,
to how long the film
12
is.
minutes. Yeah, they get to Japan really quickly in this film, and they don't spend a lot of time, like, setting it up. You're able to grow with the characters as the film progresses. And, yeah, I think it's a strong opening. I don't think it's amazing. I do think that the use of voiceover is overused throughout this film, and it starts off in the beginning. But overall, I think it's a pretty strong beginning. I give it a 4 out of 5.
I gave it a 4 also. It's like a medium 4. I think in general the narration, I'll talk about this in ending, but I think that for the most part, Andrew Garfield's narration when he's praying, I'm fine with that. But I think that in general they could have just toned it down a bit. It feels kind of lazy.
Well, it's a Scorsese film.
Yeah.
I love this voiceovers.
What did I expect, I just like kind of sighed a little bit in my heart every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's, on that note, go into ending out of 5. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this ending.
I'm not a huge fan of the ending.
It's I think the actual ending is powerful, like the actual themes and his death and holding the cross. I think it's a well executed ending, but I don't like that we're getting told all this by some random Portuguese dude telling us in a voiceover. Some random Portuguese trader is just like, hey, well, I was in Japan and I was like noticing this guy, and I'm just going to talk to you about his death, because that's how we're going to end this film after we've spent 2.5 hours with Andrew Garfield.
And
we're going to hear all of it.
We just had
this random
such an intense like climax to this film that just like easily cemented itself in my heart as one of Scorsese's most well-crafted scenes. And then we like just cut to this Dutch trader explaining the rest of the movie for 10 minutes, and I'm like, bruh, like, why? I do actually think that like the final 2 minutes, once he finally stops talking and we just get to see his burial, and he's holding the cross Mokichi gives him way back in the film, just to kind of prove to the audience that he never really lost his faith. He just was hiding it. It's really, I like that, and I do really like the final shot, but I just think that the ending is just like such a tier below the rest of this film. I agree. It looks fine. I mean,
the thing is, I don't like the voiceover, but it kind of is okay because they intercut scenes into the voiceover.
Yeah, it's not like
like Liam Neeson and Andrew Garfield talking while they're looking over objects and if they are Christian or not. And also his final confession scene with Kichiro. Like that, I think that's a really good scene. It's a really cool like ending confession, and how he still is religious even though he's hiding it quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, just overuse of voiceover, and I even think this film would have been okay if this was like a letter that Andrew Garfield wrote and we were hearing it from his perspective. I just don't like it that some random guy we haven't seen throughout the film just comes in and tells us how the movie ends. But yeah, the Kichichiro scene and the final 2 minutes boosted up for me, and obviously the cinematography. So I gave it a 3 out of 5.
I gave it a 3 also. Honestly, it's kind of a low 3. But
yeah, it is.
Like the final shot and that scene with Kichichiro, and just the scene where he kind of proves to the Inquisitor that he's not Christian. Those scenes are all fine. I just, this ending is just really, I feel like it just doesn't do the rest of this film justice.
Yeah, well, Scorsese isn't the best at ending movies.
No, he really isn't.
We know that.
He really is.
He's had a few. Shutter Island, even The Irishman were 2 great endings, but...
Yeah, even Raging Bull has a good ending, honestly.
Yeah, Raging Bull is a good ending.
Does the on the waterfront speech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, let's move into Screenplay and Dialogue out of 8. What do you think?
Well, there is a lot of narration in the film, but I think for once, I'm kind of, appreciated it. Because, this film uses the narration as these characters... or as Andrew Garfield having a conversation with God and being met with silence. So I do kind of like that narration, like I've already said. And I really think that the character development that everybody goes through is just really good. Yeah. Like Andrew Garfield, Rodriguez's character is just so good. It's so well written. And I think even Kichichiro, his character's interesting too. He's denounced his faith so many times, but he still keeps coming back to be cleansed of his sins. Honestly, the one character that I truly think could have been better is Garupe, Adam Driver's character.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it kind of feels like sometimes he's just there to... go against Rodriguez. Like, he'll be like, no, don't go out, or we should leave, or we should stay. Or I don't know. He almost feels like he just kind of, sometimes he's just there to go against Rodriguez, and he doesn't really have that much of a character of his own.
He started the film as such an interesting character and really just but then they kind of sideline him and focus on Andrew Garfield, and you don't see him for a while until he dies. I think they could have done a lot more with this character.
I think also some of the dialogue is just a little over the top maybe. I don't know. I feel like it's not the best in terms of dialogue. I think some scenes are just masterfully written, honestly. And sometimes not so much. I also feel like sometimes when they throw in the Japanese Christians that are getting tortured, I feel like it's honestly just a bit lazy. There's the scene where when he gets sold out by Kichichiro, and they kind of capture him on the forest path.
Right.
There's these characters introduced that he's gonna be imprisoned with, and you don't really get to know anything about them, and all of a sudden he's super connected to them. I don't know. I feel like sometimes this film just tries to do a bit too much, and introduce a lot of characters.
Sure.
I don't know. I think overall though, screenplay, very solid. Great character progression for Rodriguez. Ferreira has a really interesting character too, because he's kind of shrouded in mystery. Even once you get to know him, it's well, is he still a Christian? Because maybe he is in secret. You don't really know. And the Inquisitor has a good character too, and his henchman guy, because you can kind of see from their perspective. They're interesting, really kind of villains. Almost. I did air quotes when I said villains. I think a lot of the characters are really well written, but some of them just could have been a bit more fleshed out.
Yeah, I agree. I think they could flesh out some characters, but I think overall the screenplay is pretty solid, especially for the runtime of this film. I feel like most of the scenes we actually see in the movie are pretty important. There weren't any there weren't that many scenes. I mean, there's a few, but there weren't that many scenes I felt were unnecessary to any extent, even though this is like a 2.5 2 hour and 40-minute film.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I thought it's a good screenplay. I think it's strong. I really love the character development in it. I think most of the characters are written really well, and even though I think that some aren't fleshed out as much as maybe we want them to be, I think that's okay because this film is about Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
He's the main focus in this film, and it's a character study on him. It's not really about the side characters. Yeah. So it didn't bother me that much that they were kind of sidelining Adam Driver and some other, side characters in the film. The only thing for me really with Screenplay and Dialogue is just like the ending and overuse of voiceover. Even though I agree with you, I don't mind Andrew Garfield's voiceovers, just kind of like, I don't know, there's a bit too much for me. Yeah. I'm okay with voiceovers when it's like he's praying, but I don't like voiceovers when they're explaining what's happening on screen, because then, I don't know, I just think it's not necessary.
Yeah, like his letters back when he's not praying, when he's like just explaining, oh, we've been here for this long now, then it's like, okay, that's kind of just, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the screenplay is solid, and really what is boosting it up is Andrew Garfield's character and some of those just really masterful scenes, like him apostatizing and stuff, and how they're written. I think it just leads it up enough for me personally to be a 7 out of 8. It's a low 7, but I still gave it a 7 out of 8.
Yeah, I gave it a 6, high 6. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't really necessarily even think anything was unnecessary, or if it was just too beautiful for me to care.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I just, aside from the really great scenes, I didn't really think any of them were necessarily good enough to get the 7, but I don't know. I could see it being a 7. Maybe I'm being too hard.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm being really nice to it in some other categories, so I'm fine with it. Let's move on to
we're moving into soundtrack here. Now, there is no soundtrack in this film, so we've decided that we're going to do, instead of soundtrack, we're doing sound design, or just overall sound in this film. Yeah, because there is no soundtrack. It's called Silence, and there's no music in this entire film.
There's like a few occasional people singing.
Like background.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no
it's all
actual
practical.
Like score.
It's all practical.
Yeah, totally.
I like the decision.
Which I actually think adds to the darkness. Yeah,
I like the decision
really
to make the film silent because, like, obviously it's the name and it's the overarching theme, and yeah, I mean, in general, I feel like it just like it hits hard, makes the intense scene hit even harder, just because they didn't need to use music for any of the scenes to evoke emotion, which is just really impressive.
Not a usual Martin Scorsese thing to do either. Which I'm proud of him for doing. And
ups.
I mean, there's some really, I don't know, it's like without a soundtrack in this film, it almost feels like more real, because it's like you're in it, and it feels like you're just hearing all the sounds around you, and there's no like dramatic music to emphasize anything. It feels more real.
And I mean, the way that they use ambient noise in this film is just it's so incredible.
It's really good.
They have such textured like soundscapes. Every time they go somewhere, there's like constant crickets or like trees blowing in the wind, that kind of stuff. Like they paid such attention to detail with that kind of stuff. And honestly, until I like, because Lucas like texted me like, hey, by the way, when you watch it, there's no soundtrack, so put your notes for sound design. Like that helped me, because then I started to pay attention to it, and I just got really swept away by how exceptional the sound design actually is. I mean, I didn't really know how to score it. Like, I don't think I can give it full marks.
No, my only thing about it is there's some moments I was noticing that the audio, like the actual dialogue audio, was peaking a bit.
Yeah, me too. Especially on the Inquisitor character.
Yeah.
I feel like, honestly, he maybe just, the actor wasn't saying his lines very, like, he wasn't enunciating enough, or like he was talking too quietly, so they had to boost it and like made it distort a bit. I don't know. It seemed like with his character in particular, his audio just sounded kind of messed up.
Yeah, but the Foley work is so good in this movie, and I really like how the movie ends and goes into the credits still just using, birds and crickets in the background. I really like that. The trees rustling, the wind. The soundscape of this film is breathtaking. But yeah, I mean, there's some issues with the sound a little bit, especially with the dialogue. But overall, really strong. I gave it a 6 out of 7.
Yeah, I gave it a 6 too. I feel like, honestly, sure, it doesn't have a soundtrack, but like this has one of the most detailed soundscapes I've ever heard. So, respect, big respect.
Yeah, okay. Let's move into some big ones here. Production design out of 6, costumes and set. I mean, this film, the production design is gorgeous.
It's so incredible.
Oh my god! Like we'll get into location selection, but the production design is also just breathtaking. I mean, all the villages, all the houses, the prison camps,
the costumes too.
The costumes. Oh my god, the costumes. It is breathtaking.
I mean, they put so much detail into everybody's costume. I mean, there are they're the shots where they're just walking him through Nagasaki on the back of a horse, and like everybody just has such a cool looking costume. Even the extras you get to see for like half a second have some really cool looking costumes. And I mean, the production design is just incredible. They built so many of these villages.
And like to make these rural areas of Japan feel like, in the 17th century. Like that's so much, set decoration, production design. Actually, I'm going to look up what town this was filmed in.
It was filmed in Taiwan. It actually wasn't even filmed in Japan. Honestly, I like that because Japan is very it's very like how do I say this? It's very urbanized, I feel like. It would have been hard to find locate like these big epic locations where they could rebuild this stuff. So I mean, and also Taiwan is like really it's very close to Japan, and in terms of like climate and just scenery and what it looks like, it looks very similar. And I think that they did film like some of the scenes in a studio in Japan though.
Right.
Like some of the scenes with the houses that they're probably built on set in Japan. But all the exterior stuff is in Taiwan.
Yeah.
But I mean, with the $50 million budget, to be able to build some of these places.
Totally. It's crazy.
God, it's incredible.
And it makes you think about the movies that have like, the $250 million budgets. Like, do they need that much money? I mean, Scorsese just made this insanely like
detailed
epic film with like a third of the budget that most of big budget films have. I mean, I don't know.
The thing is he paid so much attention to detail. Like nothing in this film feels out of place.
Yeah.
Everything feels so authentic. Every shot, like every single hut, is so well done. It doesn't feel like. I mean, this
also,
is a
like
long
the makeup.
Film. To be able to keep up,
the makeup is so good in this movie, especially with like the burns and like how just ruined their bodies are. It's really. I mean, this is an easy 6 out of 6.
So easy.
6 out of 6.
Full marks.
Now we're going location selection. Also out of 6. Oh my god.
The locations in this film are so like incredible. I've never seen anything like it, except this one Japanese samurai movie that is on the wheel called Blade of the Immortal. Very similar to this. It's so amazing. Every single location is just astonishing,
breathtaking,
and like
every single one.
What's so impressive to me is that they're able to keep this up for a 2-hour and 40-minute movie, and some of these scenes, like, they could have just gone to the forest and filmed it, but nah, they were like, we're getting like breathtaking locations for everything in this film.
Oh yeah,
like quick 2-character conversation. How about you like put it on the side of like an incredible mountain in like a meadow with like a waterfall? Like it's so giant extra rock. And I love it. It's like Kachichiro and Rodriguez are talking. All right, where should we put them? How about we like put them in like the most beautiful place you've ever seen? And it's like 30 seconds.
Yes.
Like,
and I agree. A lot of films don't like there is so much importance in location selection. Like, really, you got to focus on that when you make films, even if it's a short scene, because that just amplifies everything. Your cinematography, just your entertainment value, everything is amplified with gorgeous locations. Yeah. And this film,
this film honestly just makes me like feel like every other film that's ever been made is just not putting enough work in. Because I mean, Marty is out here with like a $40 million budget and just put everything else to shame.
Yeah,
just with like the effort. 7 out of 6 is what I gave it.
7 out of 6.
I gave
100%.
I gave it more than full marks because I mean,
yeah, I agree. 7 out of 6.
It
deserves it. It is, without a doubt, some of the best location selection in film.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's take a quick break and then we'll hop into the second half of the review with cinematography. Okay, we're back, heading into cinematography. Out of 10.
I mean, this one almost feels unfair, just because the locations are so top notch that really, they just had to set up the camera and just put it in focus and hit record.
True.
Like, I mean, one thing that I was mentioning earlier though is like the use of fog. Makes for some really cool shots in this film. They use fog like all the time. I mean, some of these shots, like some of the wides, are genuinely like some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
There's this one scene in particular that I thought was just incredible. It's like Kachichiro is confessing his sins for the second time, I think.
Right.
And they're on this like cliff in this field, and it's like overlooking this beach, and there's like so many layers. It's like in the foreground you have them sitting on this beautiful grass, like right behind them there's this beach, and then behind that there's like a mountain, and it's just like so amazing looking. Just for this quick little scene. Like, I think that the attention to detail in the cinematography is incredible. Every shot is just really amazing. I love the deep blue color grade this film has at the start.
Totally.
Because then when you get these torchlit scenes in Nagasaki, and it's very orange, you can like feel the change in the tone, and it makes everything.
This film is lit really well, and I really like its excuse to use a lot of firelight. They have a lot of campfires, lots of torches.
Yeah,
and I mean, fire
it's before lamps, before light bulbs.
Yeah, exactly, and you get such a cool look with these dark oceans or green mountains with this like firelight. I mean, this is a beautiful, beautiful film. And even on that note, like, even though you're saying you can just set up the camera, they don't do that. They do some really cool framing in this film. Some great like depth, using different like walls and buildings to like add depth to its scenery. Also just like use of dolly shots, tracking shots. I mean, this film kind of like covers it all. Nothing crazy happens with the camera, but they don't need to because of just how beautiful this film already looks. And really top tier lighting.
Yeah, totally agree. Also, just the landscapes of Taiwan in general. I don't know if I've ever seen another film shot there. So it like just produces such a unique look to this film. Like, I mean, it's set in ancient Japan, or not ancient Japan, but like Japan in the 17th century, and I like the vibe is just so. It's so cool. Like, I don't know. Yeah. All the shots, all the framing, it just really transports you into this world. And it's a very dark world. It's a very brutal, intense world. And this film was so beautiful to watch. Like, it's up there with Atonement for
I think it passed Atonement, honestly.
Yeah.
I think this is, like, on just a beauty level, the most beautiful film we've done so far.
For sure.
I mean,
this cinematographer really knocked it out of the park. Similar to Brokeback Mountain, I think he just thrives in these big exterior, like grand, epic locations.
Yeah.
So epic, so awesome.
I think that 10 out of
for
10.
me, This is a 10 out of 10. Yeah. I mean, totally deserving of it. Amazing cinematography. Definitely deserved the nom. I actually haven't seen La La Land, but if I watch La La Land, I'm gonna be like looking at that cinematography, seeing if it deserved the dub over this, because I mean this would be hard to beat. So yeah, easy 10 out of 10 in my books.
Okay, well, let's move into editing. Out of 8, I think the editing is solid in this film. I don't think it's anything spectacular, but I think it's
sometimes
it's good.
There's some weird cuts I was noticing where it felt like Andrew Garfield would be in like the middle of a super intense monologue with one shot, and then they'd like cut to just another angle, and it like his performance changed a bit. I don't know. Like there were some weird-ish cuts that I thought were kind of unnecessary. Like, I think that this film struggled with what I like, which is when you have this like intense back and forth, but you don't really need to cut it up. Like, you just stay on these shots. And this film, like, when they were in those intense moments, they would still like cut to multiple different shots of each character.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Just because I think it like takes away some of the chops for the performance.
Right.
But, you know, it's nothing major. I think overall the editing is super solid. They don't really waste time with the characters like
totally like
going
to
from
Japan
place
right
to
away.
place. Yeah, exactly. I like the pace.
One thing for me with the editing is they're like, I usually don't like it when films do CG fire, because practical fire is better, and CG fire it's really hard to do CG fire.
It's done really well in this film.
They do it really well in this film. I mean, there isn't a lot of CG fire, but when they like show people burning and stuff, obviously there's some CG fire in that, and it looked pretty good. I mean, it's obviously not the same as practical fire, but it still looked pretty solid, and I have to give them props for that, because a lot of films just like really screw up CG fire. But yeah, overall, I think it's just kind of solid. I gave it a 6 out of 8.
Yeah, same here. 6 out of 8. Yeah, really, really solid editing. Nothing really I can nitpick that hard, so... Yeah, 6 out of 8.
Okay, well...
Let's move on to acting.
Let's move into acting out of 10. I mean,
man,
Andrew Garfield
like,
is so good in this movie.
His commitment,
oh my god.
He went on a 1-year-long retreat to Wales to learn how to become a Jesuit priest. Like, man's went from being Spider-Man to, like, just fully committed to being, like, a priest in the 16th century. Like, big props for Andrew Garfield.
I mean, this was Andrew
pounds.
Garfield's year. Yeah, well, Adam Driver lost 50 pounds, so I guess that means Adam Driver's a 10-pound better
skinny.
Yeah, and Liam Neeson also lost like 30 pounds or something. Like, all three of them lost an insane amount of weight for this film, and I know that doesn't make you a good actor,
all three
but still,
combined
the commitment is crazy.
Is like how much weight De Niro gained for Raging Bull. Scorsese is just brutal. He's out here like starving or
Andrew
like,
Garfield was saying he only ate
people.
like almonds and blueberries for like a month. Like, that's crazy. God. That's hell. But I mean, honestly, his performance, like, not even ignore the weight loss, his performance is breathtaking. I mean, he has
snubbed,
so many. Oh yeah, like he got the nomination for Hacksaw Ridge, 100%. He got nominated for Hacksaw Ridge, but I think he was worthy of the double nom this year. I think that his performance in Silence is better than his performance in Hacksaw Ridge. I don't know why he didn't get nominated. I think he should have been nominated over Viggo Mortensen for Captain Fantastic. That is my opinion. Obviously, Casey Affleck won that year, which is well-deserved. It's one of the greatest performances of all time. But I really wish he got the double nom here, because I think it was deserving. And, I mean, this performance is... I think it's one of the best performances we've seen so far.
Yeah, and the only thing that's kind of taking it away is, low-key, some of the Japanese actors were just not that great.
It's true. It's true. There's some like, side characters that are just like, honestly, not any of the big side characters though.
No, I think that Makichi, the priest who gives him, or not the priest, sorry, just the Christian who gives him the cross from the first village is really solid. I think the Inquisitor is solid and the Inquisitor's henchman. But honestly, I feel like Kichichiro just was kind of not
he's
that
a little
great.
Over the top.
He's like a little over the top. It feels just a bit fake. But then also sometimes in his confessions, he's really good.
He's really good. Yeah.
But then also I don't know, sometimes I just felt
But I also didn't mind that cuz his character is kind of fake. Like that's kind of his character. He's very like you're not sure. So honestly, I didn't mind it. I thought it was an interesting choice and I thought it it didn't fail him, honestly. I also really liked the guy who played the translator or the interpreter for Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, that's the guy. That's who I mean when I'm like the Inquisitor's henchman. Yeah, that guy.
That
guy was good.
Like he was.
I'm gonna look up his name.
I think it's Tadanobu Asano.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I agree. There's some side characters that aren't amazing, but like I did with Nocturnal Animals, even though some of the like smaller characters with a few lines of dialogue aren't amazing, it's just overpowered by Andrew Garfield, Liam Neeson, Adam Driver, the Inquisitor, the Interpreter. Like it's just overpowered by these insanely good performances that I don't want to give it lower than a 10 out of 10. Just because I think that honestly Andrew Garfield is so good in this movie. It's insane.
Yeah, I think for me it's like kind of a low 10, but honestly not really. Because Adam Driver, Andrew Garfield, so great. Liam Neeson, so great. Tatsun, the translator, great.
Yeah.
Inquisitor, great. Like everybody's just really great. And maybe I'm even being too hard on Kichichiro. He's great too. And Mokichi, he's great too.
That scene when Andrew Garfield is like laughing at himself in his reflection in the lake.
Yeah.
It's like
crazy
and
vibes.
like that scene when he's like after like that guy gets beheaded and he's just like, why have you forsaken me, God? It's like it's just so powerful. It's Adam Driver when he's screaming on the beach trying to get them to stop drowning those people.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There's just
I think that I got chills like for 90% of what was happening in this film. Like I think I just had chills for like 2 hours straight. It's just so great. Definitely 10 out of 10 for acting.
Okay, entertainment value out of 10. Now this is a long movie. It's a long movie. Not the longest of Scorsese. Wolf of Wall Street was much longer. Irishman also in the 3 hours, but this is still a very long film, 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I still, even though this was my second time watching it, was thoroughly entertained. It's visually stunning and it's an interesting story. And even though it is long and there are some moments that feel a little drawn out, I didn't mind them that much just because of like the locations, the cinematography. I still was like, I was cool with it. I didn't mind it.
I think that this is a long film, and there is a lot of scenes that aren't necessarily action, but I think that overall, just the intensity throughout this whole film, it's pretty entertaining. Like, honestly, I found it pretty entertaining for what it is.
Yeah,
because
totally.
there really isn't any. There's no like chases. There's no fights really. It's just pure
especially
emotion.
On first viewing. I mean, for you, especially on first viewing.
Oh yeah,
like,
I was in.
You have no clue what's going to happen. Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
I don't think it has an insane amount of rewatch value. Yeah. But this was my second time watching it, and I don't know if I'm going to watch it for a while now after watching it 2 times. I mean, I didn't watch it for 3 years after I watched it for the first time. But I mean, it's still really entertaining, and it does a lot, even though it's really long. It keeps you in it. I was never bored, but yeah, I mean, I do think there's some slower parts. I don't think it's insanely entertaining, but yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave it an 8 also because it's very entertaining, but it like if you're looking at it from a pure action standpoint, not much really happens.
Right.
and there's a lot of talking, so you gotta be ready to watch this. But honestly, yeah, I would watch it again and just look at it. Like, I would watch this with no audio and just revel in the beauty. Yeah. 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Okay, well, let's do overall technical achievement out of 15. Now, I mean, yeah, 10 out of 10 for cinematography and stuff. But I do feel like this film isn't like breaking any like crazy stuff when it comes to technical achievement. The sound is great. Cinematography is beautiful, but like as I was saying, cinematography is mostly beautiful just because of the locations. Yeah, I don't think that on a technical standpoint it's like that crazy, but it is very impressive nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it, I think that the sound design is really great, and I think that the cinematography is really great. So I feel like I kind of have to give it the 14. I did think the editing was like not the greatest it could have been, but I mean, this is one of the most beautiful films I've seen, and yeah, I think the sound design is very detailed also, and while the cinematography might not be as detail oriented, I can't really take away from it, just for being beautiful. Right. So sure. I gave it the 14.
Wow. Okay. I gave it 13. I just, even though I was super impressed, I didn't feel like it brought me to the 14. So yeah, it's a really high 13 for me though. Yeah. So
the show.
Let's see what. Well, let's take a quick break then. And then we will tally up our scores and spin the wheel, see what we're doing next week. Okay, back. We've tallied up our scores for Silence. What did you give Martin Scorsese's Silence?
All right. Big drum roll. I gave his the film we already did, Raging Bull, an 88.
Yep.
And I gave this film an 89%.
89
overall. One more.
Damn.
For Silence.
Damn.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite ones I've seen so far from the wheel. Wheel blessed me. Loved it. Loved it.
Yep.
Really happy that I got to see it. Definitely would recommend everybody to watch it. And it's one of my favorite like new Scorsese movies.
Yeah. I also gave Silence an 89%. We were off a bit, but we ended up evening out.
Yeah.
And I gave Raging Bull an 84, so wasn't quite as close. But yeah, I mean, I really love this movie. It's definitely in my top 100 all-time films. And yeah, I mean, this is a great movie. I think, it surpasses Nocturnal Animals, and it comes in third place.
It surpasses it just by 0.5% because I gave Nocturnal Animals an 88, and I gave this an 89, so it's up there just by one, breaking our top 3. Man, our top 5 is looking really solid now. Inglourious Bastards, Nocturnal Animals, Silence, The Master,
Children of Men.
Yeah, solid top 5.
I mean, and Parasite just at the 6th mark, which I don't know. I feel like I was way too hard on Parasite, but
I was way too easy on Parasite. It was our first one.
Yeah, I guess that.
I was way too easy on it.
That works out then.
Yeah, I don't know if anything will ever come close to Children of Men, but we'll have to see. Because I don't know if we'll agree that much on a film.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's spin the wheel. Let's see what we're doing for next week.
Hell yeah.
Okay, well, let's screen record here and let's see what we're doing next week. We are spinning in 3, 2, 1. Oh, what we getting? Oh, okay, cool. We have landed on The Shape of Water.
Oh, nice.
Best Picture winner.
I've been meaning to rewatch this. Yeah, I watched it right after it won. at the Oscars because I was like, damn, it won Best Picture.
Right.
I should see this. Definitely a strange one, I guess. Guillermo del Toro, our first Guillermo del Toro film.
Del Toro.
Great director.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, I'll say this. The Shape of Water has my all-time favorite score.
Yeah,
without
Alexander
a doubt, my all-time favorite soundtrack. And I mean, I definitely have strong feelings about this film winning Best Picture, mainly due to the fact that 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is one of my all-time favorite movies. But I'm excited to rewatch this film because like you, I haven't seen it since it was first released. Okay, well, thank you all for listening to Silence. We had fun watching this film, and we will see you next week with the 2017 Best Picture winner, The Shape of Water.
All right, see you guys.
Thank you for listening to Slightly Qualified Film Students.
Make sure to tune in next week for a new film discussion and review.
Our theme song is Slightly Sexy by Thompson Springs.
Make sure to subscribe and leave us a like.
Send us feedback and comments as well as your thoughts on the film. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at S_Q_F_S.
If you would like to send us a question or a comment for next week's episode, you can email us at sqfilmstudents@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.